My name is Linda, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm 20 years old and married to Matthew, a man I thought I'd spend forever with. We both work at the same finance company downtown. It's a decent job, not glamorous, but I've always been proud of what I do. Coming from a poor background, I've learned to work hard for everything in my life. My childhood was simple: small house, big dreams, and parents who did the best they could with what little we had. Matthew's world, though, couldn't be more different from mine. His family is wealthy, country club memberships, sprawling estates, the kind of lifestyle you only see in movies. From the very first moment I met his mother, Karen, she made it painfully clear she didn't think I belonged. I wasn't good enough for her son. She'd throw these subtle insults my way, wrapped up in fake smiles, and if Matthew noticed, he never said anything. Maybe he thought keeping the peace was more important than standing up for me. I tried to ignore it, thinking I could win her over someday, but deep down, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Still, I loved Matthew, and I thought love would be enough to make it work. I adjusted to their world, tried to fit in, but Karen never let me forget where I came from. Every dinner, every holiday, every little interaction was a reminder that in her eyes, I was just that poor girl who married into her perfect family. It all started on a Saturday afternoon, one of those rare days when Matthew wasn't working and I was hoping we could just relax for once. I'd been cleaning the house all morning. Karen was coming over for lunch, and I knew she'd find a million things wrong if everything wasn't spotless. She always did. Even when she didn't say it outright, her disapproving glances and passive-aggressive comments said enough. Karen arrived in her usual way, sweeping into the house like she owned it, carrying a designer handbag that probably cost more than my car. She barely said hello to me, just muttered something under her breath about how nice it must be to live off someone else's money. I bit my tongue like I always did. I was used to her jabs by now, but they still stung. The lunch was strained as usual. Karen complained about the food I cooked, too salty, too bland, too everything. Matthew sat there in silence, scrolling through his phone, as if pretending not to hear would make the tension go away. I tried to keep the conversation light, but Karen wasn't having it. She seemed more irritable than usual, her sharp words aimed directly at me like little arrows. After lunch, she said she was going to rest in the guest room. "I need to lie down. I don't feel well," she said dramatically, pressing a hand to her forehead. Matthew, of course, rushed to her side, fussing over her like she was fragile glass. She'd been pulling this act for years, but I stayed quiet. It wasn't worth the fight. An hour later, all hell broke loose. Karen came storming out of the guest room, her face red with anger, clutching an empty bottle of her medication. "Where is it?" she shrieked, glaring at me like I committed some unspeakable crime. I stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" "My pills." "Don't play dumb, Linda. I know you threw them out." I froze. "What?" "No, I didn't touch your medication." But she wouldn't hear it. She started yelling louder, making such a scene that even Matthew couldn't ignore it. He rushed over, his face pale with worry. "What's going on?" "Your wife," Karen spat the word like it was poison, "threw out my medication. She doesn't want me to get better, Matthew. She's trying to get rid of me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That's not true," I protested. I didn't even go near her things. But Karen wasn't done. She sank onto the couch, clutching her chest like she was about to faint. "You see how she treats me. I've tried so hard to accept her, but this is too much. I won't stand for it." I turned to Matthew, waiting for him to say something, to stand up for me. But instead, he just stood there, looking back and forth between his mother and me like he didn't know who to believe. "Matthew," I said, my voice shaking, "you know I wouldn't do this. You know she's lying." But Karen's crocodile tears won. "She's trying to make me out to be crazy," she wailed. "I can't stay in a house with someone who hates me this much." Matthew's face hardened, and when he finally looked at me, his eyes were cold. "Linda," he said quietly, "maybe you should leave for a while, until things cool down." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. "What? You're kicking me out for something I didn't do?" "Just go," he said, avoiding my eyes. "I'll call you later." I couldn't believe it. After everything I'd put up with, Karen's insults, her manipulation, the constant disrespect, this was how it ended. I grabbed my things, tears streaming down my face, and walked out of the house. As I stood outside with my suitcase, watching the door close behind me, it hit me. Matthew had made his choice, and it wasn't me. It's funny how life works sometimes. After everything that happened, I threw myself into my work. It was the only thing keeping me grounded. Moving into a small apartment wasn't easy, and starting over felt terrifying. But I needed to prove to myself that I could stand on my own 2 feet. I poured every ounce of my energy into my job, staying late, taking on extra projects, and refusing to let my personal life drag me down. And then, karma stepped in. A few months after I left Matthew, my manager called me into his office. At first, I thought I was in trouble. My stomach was in knots as he handed me a folder and said, "Linda, your performance has been exceptional. We've decided to promote you to senior financial analyst." I was stunned. Not only was this a huge step up, but it also meant I was now Matthew's superior. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. The same man who didn't believe in me, who kicked me out of his life to appease his manipulative mother, now worked under me. The promotion came with a corner office, my first ever. I sat at my new desk one morning, looking out at the city skyline, feeling a sense of pride I hadn't felt in years. I built this. I earned this. For the first time, I wasn't defined by what others thought of me. Then the door to my office creaked open. I looked up and froze. It was Matthew. He looked different. Tired. His suit was slightly wrinkled, and there was a desperation in his eyes I'd never seen before. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it. What could he possibly want? "Linda," he started, his voice low, almost pleading. "Can I talk to you?" I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "You're already here. Might as well say what you came to say." He hesitated, closing the door behind him. I made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow, staying silent. He stepped closer, wringing his hands like a child caught in a lie. "I was wrong to side with my mom. I didn't see it then, but she manipulated me. I should have defended you, believed you. I was a fool." I stared at him, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. Part of me wanted to laugh, but another part of me was just tired. "Linda, I need your help," he continued, his voice breaking. "Work has been brutal, and now with you in this position, I thought maybe we could start over. Fix what we had." I blinked at him, incredulous. "Start over?" "Yes," he said quickly, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I still love you, Linda. I know I messed up, but we can make it work. Please, I need you." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not a little chuckle, but a full-on from-the-gut laugh. It was like all the pain, all the humiliation, all the betrayal boiled over, and the only thing left to do was laugh. When I finally caught my breath, I stood up, meeting his eyes. "Matthew, you don't need me. You need your mother. Why don't you go ask her for help? I'm sure she'd be thrilled to tell you what to do next." "Linda, please," he said, his voice cracking. "I know I hurt you, but we can fix this." I shook my head. "No, Matthew, you hurt me. You kicked me out of our house because your mother lied. You didn't believe me, and you didn't stand up for me when I needed you most. And now, when things aren't going your way, you think you can waltz in here and act like nothing happened? I'm not that naive girl anymore." He opened his mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. "Save it. I've moved on. You should too. Start your new life with your mother." "Good luck with that, Matthew." And with that, I walked around my desk and opened the door. "You can see yourself out." As he left, I sat back down, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time, I wasn't the one bending, compromising, or begging to be seen. I was done being the doormat. I had my life back, and no one, not Matthew, not Karen, not anyone, was going to take it away from me again. It wasn't until I walked out of that office, hearing the door click shut behind me, that I realized something profound. I had finally stood up for myself. No more playing the role of the victim. No more silently suffering for the sake of a marriage that was built on manipulation and empty promises. For so long, I'd been afraid of making waves, of losing everything, but now I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Power over my own life. Power over my own decisions. For once, I wasn't asking anyone for validation. I had earned my place, and I wasn't going to let anyone, least of all Matthew, take that from me. The next day, as I walked into the office, I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. I had a new role, new responsibilities, and most importantly, new respect for myself. When I saw Matthew sitting at his desk in the same office, a flicker of discomfort crossed my mind. He was no longer the man I had married. He was just another colleague now, working under me. I had risen in my career, a step ahead of him, and the irony wasn't lost on me. The man who used to hold all the power in our relationship was now in a position where I was his superior. The tables had turned. I could see how difficult this was for him. He avoided eye contact, pretending to focus on his work, but I could feel the tension between us. I wasn't sure what he expected, maybe a warm greeting, maybe a chance to talk things through. But all I felt was a mix of disgust and pity. It didn't take long for him to finally approach my desk. His footsteps were hesitant, as if he wasn't sure how to approach me. I looked up at him, folding my arms and leaning back in my chair, taking in the man who had once been my husband but was now just another person I had to share an office with. "Linda," he said, his voice soft, almost tentative. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I just stared at him, watching him squirm. I had no desire to hear his apologies, no patience for his regret. Not anymore. He didn't deserve the privilege of my forgiveness, not after what he'd done. "I'm busy, Matthew," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You're not my husband anymore, and you're definitely not in a position to ask for anything from me. Not after everything that happened." He seemed to deflate a little, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of the situation was finally hitting him. But I wasn't going to let him off the hook this time. "Look, Linda," he started again, but I held up my hand to stop him. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "I've heard enough of your excuses. I gave you chance after chance to show you could stand up for me, to show that you actually cared. You didn't. You chose your mother over me, and you kicked me out of our home without so much as a second thought. Now you want my help. You think I'm going to help you rebuild your life when you never even fought for mine." Matthew's face reddened, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of shame in his eyes. But I didn't care. He wasn't the one I needed to apologize to. "You don't get to walk back into my life and try to use me just because you've fallen on hard times," I continued. "I'm not your safety net. I'm not your second chance. I've worked too hard to get where I am to have it all thrown away for someone who's never had the decency to respect me." He opened his mouth to speak again, but I stopped him. "No, you don't get to say anything. I'm not your wife anymore, and I'm certainly not your backup plan. I'm your boss now, so you'll respect me as such." The words hit him like a slap, and he stood there, silent, unable to find anything to say in return. I could see the hurt in his eyes, but I wasn't moved. "I've moved on, Matthew," I said, my voice growing colder. "I don't need you in my life anymore. I've set my boundaries, and I'm not going to let you push them. You're working for me now, and you'll act like it. Keep it professional." His face fell, and he nodded, turning to walk away. But before he reached the door, I called out. "Don't forget, Matthew," I said, a hint of a smile creeping onto my lips. "You're working for me now." The door shut softly behind him, and for the first time in months I felt a sense of finality. I had done it. I had finally found my voice. No more hiding, no more letting people walk all over me. I wasn't going to let anyone control me again, not even Matthew. And I knew one thing for certain, I was never going back. Looking back, I felt proud of myself. Proud that I had found the strength to protect myself, to leave behind the toxic people who had held me down, and to start anew. I had learned that I was capable of so much more than I ever imagined. And for the first time in my life, I knew that I could be happy on my own terms.